Welcome back to Honest News. All right, this is part 2, exposing the infiltration of the Catholic Church, the Jesuit secret order, into not just all the world, but even the United States, taking over the West. And here we pick up where this man is talking about how the head of a university, or not a university, but a Bible school, this campus, and this is the president of the school, Wilkerson, and he talks about how that there's this young man that comes in, wants to study to be a minister in the Protestant church, and well, the Lord led this man that was the president of the school to open up the envelope. And so he he opened it up so that it didn't look like it was tampered with. Got it open and he read it, and it was orders from the Jesuit secret society telling him what to teach. And so he put it back in there and sealed it up, and he told the young man, he said, "I have a piece of mail here for you." And so the young man, you'll hear what he says he did. But this is where we pick up on the second part. And then after this, we are going to hear from the person in the first part of this series. He's going to share with us some more very interesting things that are going on with the Catholic Church and the infiltration. This is eye-opening information, people.
Being placed by the mailman in the mail slot for this Bible teacher. And the letter was a rather long, rectangular, official-looking letter. And after the mailman left, Dr. Wilkinson stepped over to the box and he drew the letter out. And he looked at it, and the return address was a Hereford Road address. Now, Wilkinson knew that that was a Jesuit college. It wasn't located too far from Washington Missionary College. He took the letter and he steamed it open. Of course, this was an illegal act. But, you know, when you're dealing with a class like they are, they've committed many illegal acts in their time. The assassination of princes being the least of their illegal acts. And, you know, the Jesuit motto is the end justifies the means. Wilkinson thought, I'm going to steam this letter open. And if it's an innocent thing, I'll just close it up again, say nothing. He steamed it open, and inside he found orders from this young man's superior, telling the young man, outlining to him what he was to preach or teach in his Bible class for the next several months. Dr. Wilkinson reinserted the letter, gummed the flap back on.
So I'm sorry, folks. This was not a student. This was actually going to be a teacher on the campus in this Bible school. And this is not David Wilkerson. This is another Wilkerson.
He called the young teacher in. He said to this young man, he had the letter on his desk, and he said to this young man, I have a piece of mail for you. And he handed it to him. And he says, we know who you are, and we know why you are here. You are a Jesuit. Are you not? The young man looked across the desk at Dr. Wilkinson. He picked up his mail, turned on his heel, and walked out. And that was the last they ever saw of this man. He never even stopped to pick up his pay. But he cleared off of that campus the very same hour.
When I was in detective work in Washington, D.C. during World War II, I was going home to Alexandria, Virginia from Washington, D.C., and when I got to the mall, there was two scholars, and they were sticking up their fingers for a ride. I said, I'll just pick them up and put them in the back seat and see what I can find out from them. And so when they got in the back seat and was seated, I asked them, I said, you boys are from Georgetown University taking the priesthood, aren't you? No, we're not taking the priesthood, they said. Oh, I said, you're scholars from Georgetown University taking something. What are you taking? They said, we're Anglican brothers. Oh, I said, the church has never told us what Anglican brothers are, nor much about them, and I don't know much about them. What do Anglican brothers do, and what are they for? They said, well, we're taking studies to work with the Protestant churches and get them to come in to do what the church wants them to do, and to work with them and work with us. And I said, well, how many of you folks are taking the course? We said it was about 780. And I said, how many graduated? Oh, some heard between 780 and 700 or 800. No, 700 and 780. I said, no, how many graduated last year? And they told me. And then I said, the year before that. And they told me, and I went back till we had about 3,800 people graduated and out in the field. And I said, well, what do you boys do when you go out in the field? No, I said, first I want to know how many graduate next year. Well, it said it'll be somewhere under 900 anyway. And I said, how about, what do you do when you graduate? Said, well, the first thing we change our names. And when we change our names, then we're allocated so many to this church, so many to that church, and to another church. And I said, when you go out to the churches, then what do you do? He said, well, first thing we do is look around for some nice young ladies we'd like to make an associate member with, and then we marry them. And after we're married, we go off to a Protestant theological seminary or school, and we come out a Protestant minister. Then we're taught to, in our course, to work up to the heads as fast as we can in that.
Isn't that interesting? That's exactly what I've been saying for years. That's where the Catholic Church, that's where the charismatics come from. So all these mega churches, you know, like Rick Warren and all these different, you know, Kenneth Copeland, all these different ones. Maybe not Kenneth Copeland, but Hagen, you know. But my point is, a lot of these leaders of the charismatic church, I'm talking about not the ones that are today, but the ones that are their fathers in the faith, you know, like Hagen for Kenneth Copeland, so on, that these guys are actually Jesuits. And I'm actually almost positive that Kenneth Copeland's a Jesuit. So he kind of, you know, he's old enough to definitely be a Jesuit and to be a part of what this man is talking about. I don't know how much of this still goes on today as far as the younger crowd, but we do know that their fathers, spiritual fathers in these charismatic churches were definitely infiltrators. So we have a generation before us right now that's being infiltrated by the Catholic Church, the Jesuit secret order, to take over the whole world and bring in a one world government, people. Are you listening to me? That's what the charismatic church is. That's what Hillsong is. These are infiltrators. Listen to what this man is telling us. The first thing to do is change their name, so you don't even know what their real name is, so you can't do any background check on them. You ever wonder why you can't do a background check on certain ministers? You'll never find any information on them. You can only go back so far to find information on certain ones of these ministers, because I've tried to, and you can't. It's like there's a roadblock. It's because that's probably not even their real name. And then they go and they marry a woman that's already a Protestant, and they become a Protestant minister. Let's listen to the rest of this.
That line, and where we're supposed to work in. And I said, now, do all of you work in the same field? No, says some of us work, but we all work in the church, trying to get the churches to unite with us and do what we want them to do.
So were these Roman Catholic students then?
They were, as far as I learned, from what I learned, they were Jesuits. I know they don't only infiltrate the Protestant churches, but they infiltrate their schools. And I know one fellow that got to be teacher in the Methodist school, and as a result of that, a lot of the Methodist ministers today are carrying communist cards. They utilize anything and everybody to bring their means to an end.
Now, that would make sense. If these charismatics working along with Donald Trump believe in communism, and they're really Jesuit infiltrators, they're literally trying to bring about communism, not just in the United States, but worldwide, globally, to bring in this one world government. This is the preparation to bring in that man of sin, that wicked. So this is part 2, and there may be a part 3, but we're going to keep digging. We're going to keep on searching so that we can put the pieces together, connecting the dots, helping people to have a fair chance to escape what is to come.